One of the worst thinking traps that we can get into is this belief of it's easier for you. And I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. Let's just sit here. Honesty moment. How many times have you listened to the podcast or you have seen someone that you admire, or you go to them for advice, and you will be looking at an element and you will be focusing on something where it feels like that they have something, they've got like a one up on you. And you're like, oh, this is easy for you. I used to have this with modeling where I would look at my friends that had these like perfect size 6 bodies and they didn't really have to do a whole lot. Like genetics really helped them out. And I would really focus in on this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. And this is such a trap. It is a trap because the problem is we automatically will put someone else on a pedestal, and then it's like we start to think about every way that this will work for them and then how this cannot work for us because we don't have that. And what we do is we focus on the one small thing and we forget about everything that we have working for us. I hear this a lot in business where I'll say something and they will say, oh, this is easier for you because you're outgoing, or this is easier for you because you're this. And it's like, I didn't come out of the womb this fabulous. Like the amount of work and effort and personal development and conversations and trials and errors and failures that have gone into the person that you see now. Like you are not seeing chapter 1, Peter. You are seeing like chapter 15, book 5, Peter. Okay. I want you to remember that. So I'm saying this because it is a real trap if we start to look at people in business or people and we feel like that for whatever reason, this is easier for them. And whenever it comes out of your mouth or you think this, I want you to catch whenever you go to say or think it's easier for you or it's easier for them. Because at the end of the day, everyone has things that they are going through. We all have challenges. We all have things where it is really helpful, but then we all have things that are like working against us. So we need to stop assuming that someone's life is easier for them because we all have our own sets of challenges. For example, I hear often as well that because I don't have kids, this is easier for me. And I do not doubt that I have more time freedom to pack my shit up and do whatever I want. On the flip side, I go home to an empty house every night. And I know some of you are like, that is my dream. But it does sometimes take its toll when I feel like that I've had a great day or I'm dealing something really hard and there is no one there except myself. The only person that I have is me and my thoughts, and I get to go and walk into my bathroom and look in the mirror and have that conversation with them. Sure, I can ring my mom, but it's not like that I have someone there. I don't have someone if I have like a really big night that's able to like put food in the fridge or clean the house or buy toilet paper. Like that is me. And that is hard. And this used to be something that I would have to battle a lot, where I look at like my competitors in the space and it's like they have their husbands in their business or their husbands are behind the scenes. And I was like, if I only had 2 of me, I would be invincible. And I had to get over that. And the reason that I had to get over that is because I don't want to build up anyone's business except my own. So I don't want to look at other people around me and all of a sudden I'm being like, well, this is why it's easier for them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fucking flick them out of my brain for a second. And the person that I'm going to focus on is me. I'm going to focus on myself because that is the only thing that I can control. Sure, they may have more money, more assets, more knowledge, whatever the fuck it is. But at the end of the day, they have something that they can never have access to. And that is me. They don't have me. So although they may have things where I'm like, oh yeah, I wish that I had that. They don't have my brain. They don't have my fucking charisma. They don't have my personality. They don't have any of that. And this is where I'm going to ask you to get clear on what are the assets that you actually have. And maybe that is the work that you need to do. Maybe you need to just not think about anyone else, but you have to start and build up yourself. Start putting yourself on a pedestal, take them off the pedestal, and remember who you are and what you actually bring to the table. Now, this brings me to my next point, which is the danger of absolutes. We don't want to become a victim of our own life by looking at something that someone is saying or getting advice, and then all of a sudden we're like, well, that can't work for me because I've got this. And then all of a sudden we completely tune that out. I've heard people say this before as well, where they're like, I tune out all financial advice that this person has said because they have had this small thing working for them. You know, it does feel shit when it does feel that someone has gotten a leg up on something in life, right? I've seen this before and I was like, if only I was a Nepo baby, this would be easier. And it's like, sure, but you're not. So you have the life that you have right now. Let's fucking make it work. Because I really don't think that expecting to kind of like die and then come back and hope for a different life is going to be like a good solution. You feel me? It's like we only have the life that we have right now. We have the business that we have right now. And it is up to us to make the fucking most of it. So we want to make sure that we are not tuning out when someone gives us advice. And because we don't see ourselves completely represented, that we're not just tuning things out. I see this with clients. I literally see it on Zoom calls when I will give people advice and I can see in their eyes, I can see the cogs turning and I can see the thoughts that come up. And I will say something and they'll be like, this is easier for you. They don't even need to say that. I'll be like, I would be a bit more outgoing. And I can see in their head, they're like probably rolling their eyes thinking, yeah, but that's you and that's not me. And it's like, well, it's never going to be you though, if that is how you approach things. And this is a really dangerous way to think. Because the problem is we are putting ourselves in a box and we are not recognizing our potential. We are looking at who we are and we are being like, well, shit is just not going to change. This is where it is so good for you to remember what you have working for you. If it helps, write it down. Write it down. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to see everything that you feel like is a negative. I want to ask yourself, what is the positive aspect of that? Let's go. So I don't have a partner. I do not have a husband to support me. Okay, cool. The positive of that is I don't have someone in my ear giving me feedback on everything that I'm doing. I have myself. I can trust myself. What is a positive of every bill relying on me? Well, I get to then make every decision and I don't get to have someone's fucking ugly wall of hats in my house, right? What is a positive of not having a car and being a pedestrian? My beautiful mum picks me up every single day to drive me to work and then take me home. And do you know how nice it is to have like mum time twice a day and have that like little connection and I get to see her? I feel so grateful that we have that. Imagine if I drove, I probably would see her less. We would converse less. And I know that I have that like constant and that stability. That's amazing. What is an upside of the fact that when I started my business, I did not have a whole lot of cash? Like it was scrappy as fuck because I had no funds. I had to learn how to do things myself. I had to figure this out. I had to like spend 30 minutes on Google trying to find the most basic things because I had no one to ask. I couldn't afford a coach. I didn't really know anyone that was doing this. Back in 2009, we didn't really have the in-depth tutorials. We didn't have Instagram. It's like you were on your own. So I had to figure this all out myself. And although this was annoying that I couldn't outsource and pay for things, the amount of shit in business that I can do now because I've had to go through that has been astronomical. And this is why when people say, oh, this is easier for you because you know all of this, it's fucking hilarious because I'm like, the grunt work and the mess, like I feel like that I've had to wade through a sea of shit at times and come out the other side. And it's like you are again seeing that chapter 15 of book 5. You haven't seen everything that's kind of happened. So what I'm going to say here is anytime you want to say or think it's easier for you and then tune out, I want you to get clear on how is it then easier for you? What do you have working for you? What are your assets? What are your resources? This is something I did really early on in my business. My mum had these like Tony Robbins tapes, Anthony Robbins, and I put on these Anthony Robbins tapes and I remember listening to them like really late at night. I was still living at home with my mum, had my Pilates studio. I had this like what is like a boom box thing, whatever it's called, where you put like the cassette tapes in and I had to play it really, really, really low because my mum was sleeping. And I remember writing this thing was like a resource list. And he was like, write all of the resources that you have. And I remember he's like, think of everything. And I wrote down things where it's like, I'm young, I'm fucking hot, like I'm a go-getter. And I wrote things down that I had working for me. And even though at the time I didn't really have any money and I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing, I knew that I still had elements that were working for me. So this is where you have to be so committed to finding out what do you have working for you. You have to recognize it and you have to remember it. And if you feel like that something is working against you, ask yourself, can I change this? Can I change it or can I accept it? And if you cannot change it, you then have to accept it. and know that we all have things in life that are working for us. We have things that are working against us. So, when I'm telling you things, when I'm saying this advice and you're making this sound really simple, you don't know what I'm going through. And it's like, sure, I don't know what you're going through, but you also don't know what I've been through. Isn't that fun? Because at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, what outcome are you after? And it's like, you can't really hold two things true in the moment if you are trying to get a different outcome. You could be even listening to this podcast and being like, I wish that I could just speak. I wish I could do this, but I'm really bad at this. You can't hold, I want to get better at this and I am bad at this. You cannot hold both of those thoughts and make them both true. So this is where you have to make a decision on, what one do I want to be true, and go through that process and just fuck that belief off that, oh, this is easy for Peter. She's a natural communicator, because you haven't seen everything that I've had to go through to get to this point. Oftentimes what we look at in other people and we deem, oh, that must be easier for them. It's not. They've just decided to choose their hard and work through the hard parts. And again, you are seeing that endpoint. You are seeing the outcome of all of that hard work. Yes, people have things going for them. Yes, they also have things against them. That is just life. That is what makes it fun. And this is where you get to own this as part of your story. And something that has really helped me is, anytime I feel like that stuff is just feeling really shit and I'm feeling like a bit victim-y, I remember, how cool is it when I get to come out the other side of this and then I've had my win. I've gotten that endpoint where I've got my win. How cool is it that I get to be an example of what is possible for someone else? How cool is it that I get to be an example of someone that can thrive and have a business and be single? How cool is it that I get to be an example of someone that starts again? How cool is it that I get to be this? And, no one ever likes to watch like a fucking movie or read a book where it's like the character has just had like win after win after win. We do like to see ourselves represented, and we love to see that example of possibility for us. So I want you to remember that. If you feel like that everything is working against you and that life is hard, you get to be the example of what is possible. This is something my unofficial mentor, Brooke Castillo, would say, is when she had her goal to make $100 million a year as a life coach, she is like, I want to be an example of what is possible. And let me tell you, that changed something in my brain. I was like, I'm obsessed with this. So your challenge for this week, I want you to identify a place in business or a thought that you've been having where you've been saying, oh, it's easier for them. And I want you to think, how can I create this for myself? And then I want you to also get clear on what are the parts that are actually helping you out. What do you have working for you? Create a catalog of those resources. Oh, hot stuff. I love this. I love this. I love you. I love you more than my crisp little can of Diet Coke. Not sponsored, but it should be. A nice little slim, sexy can. Love you more than that. I love you more than, we have this shelf here. It's like a little shelf. I've got the phone. It's perfect height. I've got my elbow. It's perfect. I'm like so comfortable right now. I'm like, did they know that when they installed this shelf at that height, that my arm would be in the perfect height for my shoulder position and the amount of comfort that I would have? Oh, I love this. What a whim. I love you more than my coat. I said in one of the other episodes that I just feel at the moment like my wardrobe is good. I'm having a good wardrobe moment. The amount of like curation that has gone into this. I wanted to get like a big fluffy coat for a while. I bought this last year with credit card points and I love it. I get compliments on it all the time. I feel like an icon. And, I'm dressed quite simply. I've got on just like a Cook-Eye stretch long maxi dress. It's like a tank dress and it's like slate gray with like a bit of blue in it. I've got on some really nice little heels and my coat. And I just ran up the street before with my big sunnies on for a coffee and I bumped into someone on the street and she's like, oh my God, I love this. You look amazing. And it's funny because I'm like, there's really no effort that has gone into this outfit. Well, something that I do is I make sure that all my pieces like match. So I make sure that like if I grab 3 dresses and 3 coats, I know that I can make like multiple outfits out of that. By multiple, it's like putting a different dress with a different coat. But for the most part, it's like I like things to match. So I think that is working really well for me. I am loving you more than this whole year. It has been a really good year. The clients that are coming in, the content that I've put out there, I think the changes in my business, like we've leveled up the podcast. stuff is feeling really, really good. And it's really nice because I think so much of entrepreneurship, everything is drawn out, it's a long game. Sometimes you'll do something and you're not going to see the results of that for a while. And that can be fucking annoying. Like, trust me when I say I'm really impatient. Like, when I'm coming on here and I'm like, guys, I know how hard it is when you feel like that everyone has everything you want. Like, I have been through everything. Like, I know how you're feeling. I know all of this. And, I think this is why, and I love how Gary Vee says, you've got to love the process because the process is your business. And what's been really good is all of these changes that I've made. So things where it's like, let's level up the podcast video. The amount of satisfaction I have when I go and like edit this, it feels like actually good. It feels joyous. I'll admit editing the podcast is a bit time consuming, but it's nice to go and look back and see the genuine growth that we've had with it. And I know that you are loving it. So thank you for that. And I can't wait until this year finishes and I can see the growth that we've had again. And I think that's the thing in business. It's like everything will just slowly compound. It's like it gets better in these like little micro moments. Sometimes we'll have this huge shift. They're always fun. But it's not oftentimes until we stop and we almost like turn around and we look back at where we've come from and we see all the growth that we've got. Oh my gosh, it's such a good feeling. So if you haven't already, maybe do that. Maybe just like stop and be like, who was I at the start of the year? Who was like January me? What were they doing? Who were they? And ask yourself how you've grown. And if you feel a bit disappointed, I think this is where you then get to obviously make that decision of it's like, okay, cool. I feel really disappointed with where I am. Why? And what am I going to do next? And I have periods like that. I have periods like that. Like I'm in my like weight loss healthy era. And I'm kind of loose. I loosely do it because the thing is I'm like, well, I look great now. I've got great wardrobe, but there's still a part of me where it's like, yeah, I need to take my health a little bit more seriously. I want to fit back into my old wardrobe. And, when stuff like that happens, it's like, do I get annoyed? Like, yeah, but then it's like, okay, cool, baby girl. If this is something that you want, then you have to make a decision and you've got to kind of like move through the hard. You've got to move through the hard and you need to think about future you. And then I get to, of course, make that decision. Okay, sweet. Let's make this change. And then I get to make the change. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say there. So hot stuff. I hope you love this episode as much as I love you. And let me tell you, that's a lot. Mwah.